Hey everybody, welcome. It is time for our weekly walkthrough of Unit 5. Before we get started though, I want to speak directly to each of you. If you think this message is meant for you, it might just be. So we have completed half of the 8-week course. And right now, there are people who have not turned in a great number of things. The participation in Unit 4 was dismal, really. Only 6 individuals posted on the discussion board. So to you six, I give you a good shout out. Um, and only a couple of people submitted the writing assignment. Um, the only way that you can really not pass ENG107 is by not doing the work. And if you do any work at all, even if you think it's not the greatest work you've ever done, it is better to finish the assignments and to complete them on time and or at least close to on time than it is to just imagine that they don't exist. Um, I'm I reach out several times a week by reminders and by individual emails, and occasionally I get an email back. I posted a kind of visual aid earlier in the term about emails from your instructors. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you as students to be checking your student email all the time. And whenever you get an email from an instructor or from the school about something important, it is very important that you answer it. Um, because we're fully online and because I don't have access to you in a room once a week or twice a week or whatever the case may be, the only way that I have to reach out to you is electronically. And if you do not respond, there's nothing I can do to help you. I mean, it's very frustrating from a teaching perspective because I spend a lot of time doing outreach and trying to contact people who are struggling. And if you don't meet me halfway, there's nothing that I can do to help you succeed. So, that's my little PSA for week 5. We are entering Unit 5. It is not too late, but it is getting too late. So it is very important that if you have missed something from Units 1 through 4, that you contact me by email and you set up a plan. Let me know when to expect it, whatever the case may be. We need to have a meeting of minds on how to get you caught up. Okay. Um, so with that being said, I know it's an unpleasant thing, but it is really, 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 really important. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at this week's stuff. I've got a couple of things for you. We'll first go, as we always do, to the actual unit. Our theme this week is awareness, and we are focused on um, what has become a hot topic and one that I never in my lifetime thought would be seen as a bad thing, but we are examining belonging and inclusion. Um, Recognizing bias, of course, is very important. Um, we cannot eliminate bias because we are all human and we all have biases. Some of them are even positive. Like I assume that students are going to do all their own work. That's a bias of mine. Um, so anyway, so the materials this week, we're going to be looking at that. Belonging, inclusion, how to recognize bias, how to advocate for yourself. You're going to be doing some self advocacy as well as some self reflection. And we're going to be writing the first of a couple of different short essays in which you will utilize some sources, a source in this case, to support an opinion, to support what you're saying. Okay, so let's take a look at the readings and resources where you should always start. This week you have 3 chapters from the Johnson textbook, Research to Gather Data, the Basics of Academic Writing, and Reducing Bias. Almost all academic writing involves you including facts and expert opinions from things that you have researched. And so that's what we're focused on in these chapters. And that includes making sure that the sources that you are using are not overly biased to the point of being unfair. Then we have 2 choices for this week's writing assignment. There's a poem. Sorry, one of my work colleagues was calling and I could not get the phone to stop ringing on my computer, so I apologize. Um, you have 2 choices for this week's writing assignment. One is to analyze and summarize a poem by J.S. Bacco called I Am Offering This Poem. And the other is to focus on an article. This is by Bruder, Building Belonging in the Workplace. How can we blend work and life so that companies and employees pursue potential together? From the journal Leadership Excellence. You also have a video of J.S. Bacco reading his poem. You don't have to cite both, although typically you're going to be wanting to really read the poem several times, so you're probably going to focus on the written form. However, it's awesome to be able to encounter the writer of the poem reading his own work. That's really a cool thing. Then we have some videos on belonging and inclusion for you to check out as well. Once you have completed the readings and resources, you do have an interactive exercise this week that focuses on facts versus opinions. I just mentioned facts and what I called expert opinions. We sometimes get told inappropriately that when we are writing, we can only include facts. Um, that's definitely not true. We do want our arguments to be based on factual information, and we want to make sure that we are getting actual facts when we are looking at things like statistics and all that good stuff. But we do also research experts' opinions, who hopefully have also backed up their opinions with facts. And that is largely what we are using when we are doing research for writing a paper. So do take some time with the interactive exercise that will help you with this week's materials. Discussion 5 is about self-awareness. And this is kind of a midterm check-in. How do you feel about the course so far? What are some of the assignments that benefited you? What were some areas you struggled with in class? Share with the class one assignment that you thought was interesting, helpful, or unexpected, and what were some of the reasons this assignment had meaning for or resonated with you. I also want to make a little PSA on this, and that is this refers to English 107. In the last few terms, I've had people talking about assignments that we didn't have. I always assume they're talking about an assignment in one of their other classes, but that is a big red flag that you have maybe not done the assignment the way it was written. This is about our course. Okay, so please focus on English 107 as you are thinking about that. Don't forget to respond to your peers as well. Maybe they made some suggestions that, make you look at something in a new way. And basically, just encourage each other in terms of the self-reflection. Then we have a journal. We have 3 assignments this week. I know it's a lot, but we have a journal. Um, as usual, there is no right or wrong answer to a journal, but you do need to write a good, solid, at least one fully developed paragraph of 6 or more sentences. And there's actually 2 things that you need to consider. So most of the time, I have folks who separate these out into two paragraphs, and it makes sense to do it that way. So the first topic is about stereotyping and being judged. So have you ever been stereotyped or judged based on the way you speak or look? Do you ever wonder what you might do if faced with bias or if you felt you were being stereotyped unfairly? I will say that a lot of people encounter stereotyping based on looks, of course, but also language. That's a big one that a lot of people have real life experiences with. You do need to share a real life experience. So instead of just saying people thought I was snooty because of the way I dressed, you need to tell the story of what happened. That's one that I have an experience for. So let me give you an example in order for you to see what a specific example looks like. Years ago, when I was living in St. Louis, I worked at a property management company, and I worked as an assistant manager in an apartment building. And for the longest time, I I never I, here's the thing. I didn't really notice that I was being judged. Um, but I found out probably 6 months in because the woman who did the cleaning for the property and the gentleman who delivered our mail, um, both eventually felt comfortable enough with me to let me know that when I first came, they thought I was stuck up and they thought I was snooty. It took him 6 months to figure it out, so I feel bad about it. I asked, once we became actual friends, I was like, what led you to that conclusion? Because I mean, I am clearly not. And the woman who did the cleaning said it was because, quote, you wear clothes that match, end quote. I thought that was very odd, but okay. I tried to dress professionally because I'm managing an apartment building and work for a corporation. And so it was interesting that she kind of interpreted it that way. Um, the other thing, of course, that I can notice for myself is that because I am typically naturally an introvert, I'm not super talkative with people that I don't know very well yet. And so I figure that played into it as well. So that would be my example if I were to give one and to write this journal. And the second part, which is a different question, you do need to respond to both. Consider the following scenario. You have been given an unfair grade, but are not sure why. How do you proceed? Share the steps you would take. Now, if you have an example of sometime this really happened, you can certainly talk about that, but this one is a little bit more theoretical. What would you do in this case? Okay. How would you advocate for yourself? All right, so that's the journal. And then finally is the short essay. So in this particular assignment, like I said, you've got the two sources to choose from, and you have the actual citations for the sources that are going to go on your reference page. All you have to do is copy and paste into your document. But let's take a look at the assignment sheet first, and then we'll look at the sample that I have created for you. All right. So, in this assignment, you will review either a poem or an article on belonging and caring and create a three-paragraph reflection on that article or poem by answering questions about the author's perspective. So, if you enjoy creative writing like poetry and music and things like that, you might gravitate more towards the poem. If you are more logical and want kind of facts and figures, then you will probably gravitate more towards the article. You do need to read both of them before you make a decision about which one you're going to write about, but you only need to write about one of them in this short essay. So, three paragraphs and three questions. So, each paragraph gets its own question. So, paragraph one will answer this one. What is the author trying to say about belonging and caring? Let me highlight it. Well, it's not going to highlight. Okay. So, number one, what is the author trying to say about belonging and caring? In the second paragraph, according to the writer, what is one way to validate belonging and caring or make people feel like they belong and are cared about? And then number three, paragraph three, what is one challenge the writer explores about belonging and caring? Why is it hard? Okay. You will have APA formatting, so you will have a title page. Your essay will start on page 2. Everything is plain double spaced. I've been giving people notes on format in some of the other assignments, so look back for that. You also will have the ability to use my sample as a template, and it's already all set up for you. So all you have to do is put your own paragraphs in and your own information. You'll want to take a look at the rubric. If you answer all three questions, if you have a perfect or at least a present title and reference page, even if they're not perfect, you're going to get points for that. Is it 3 paragraphs? Are each of the paragraphs 3 or more sentences long? You'll notice that we don't have our magic number of 6 this time. These paragraphs don't have to be terribly long. They should probably be longer than 3 sentences, though. We are used to writing 6-sentence paragraphs, and I would encourage you to continue with that because that's how we get good detail. And then, of course, all of the formatting, grammar, punctuation, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so let's take a look at the assignment. Again, remember that in order to find the citations for the poem or the article, all you have to do is copy and paste them from here or from the actual um, readings and resources. You will also be able to access those citations by opening the document itself. This one is from a website. So with this one, I would need to utilize something like Scribr to create the citation. So for the poem, I would just use the citation that's right here. For the article, this is a library article. And so once you get this open, you probably have to sign in. We've been doing this all semester. So if I can get my computer to cooperate. Let's see. Nope, we're still thinking about it. Oh, maybe the library is not working right now. Um, okay, I'm going to assume it is. Like I said, this is the citation for the article too, so you don't have to dig into it, but in the library there are citations provided. So anyway, we'll take a look another day. All right, so let's look at the sample. Um, Page number in the header. We need a title, Unit 5, Belonging and Caring. We have your full name, Department of English, Post University, the class, my name, and then the date. Below that, on page 2, remember you do repeat the title in bold at the top of page 2 as well. And then in the paragraphs, we'll have at least 3 sentences each. So this one might be kind of short. This is a double-spaced paragraphs, 3 paragraphs with 3 sentences in them, or the equivalent of 3 sentences. So it may be this short. It could be longer. That is absolutely fine. If it goes on to page 3, then your reference page won't start until page 4. But for most of you, page 3 will be the references. This is the citation for the YouTube video. This is the citation for the poem. And this is the citation for the article. This one is I like this citation better for the one that is the poem on YouTube, but anyway, you'll notice they are in alphabetical order. You will only need to have one item on your references page. If you want to cite both the poem and the video, that's certainly fine, but you would only need to have the written poem or the article. Okay, so keep that in mind. You already have it set up here. So feel free to utilize this as your template. All right. you have any questions, a good time to get those answered is tomorrow evening on Tuesday, the 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern, when we will be doing the weekly workshop, and it will be me hosting it. So if you do have questions, feel free to pop in. I would love to see you live and in person. Well, not in person, but you know what I mean. Okay. Take care, everybody. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next week. Don't forget about late work. It's very important to reach out. Very.